Beginner planning mistake number 1. Having more planners does not mean being more productive. Can I say that again? Having multiple planners does not mean you're going to be multiply productive. Basically, what I'm saying is this. I see all the time new people coming into the planning community, buying a new planner, and then seeing all these other people use different planners, and they decide, oh, well, they're using more than one planner. Let me try that for myself. Now, my whole life, I've been the type of shopper who buys things only when I can think of an actual purpose for that item. And so for me, coming into the planning community, I bought my first planner, and it took me months before I bought a second one. And even when I bought the second one, I ended up putting away the first one and was primarily using the second one. So my recommendation for people who are new to planning is to just stick with one planner, get very comfortable with it, figure out your groove on what your planning style is, what your actual intention is for planning before you decide that maybe you should branch off and get a second planner. A lot of times people get second planners because they want to separate two different things. So for example, you might want to have one planner just for work purposes. You might want to have a second planner just for home. I understand that. If you are a stay-at-home mom like me and you are home all the time and you don't have like separate work, separate home, then you can get away with all of it being in one. But however, you might, in my instance, I did this once where I wanted to have a separate planner just for health and wellness, like to track my heart rate and my sleep, and to use it to write down like gratitude and things that like good things that have happened in the day, sort of like a journal in the sense, and a place for me to put down like recording health symptoms. So I can see that. However, in the very beginning, when you are just getting your feet wet, the number one mistake I see is planners getting way too many, and then what ends up happening is they get way overwhelmed, and then they end up not even using any planner at all. So don't make that mistake. Beginner planning mistake number 2. A planner isn't going to fix your chaos. What do I mean by that? A lot of times I hear people think, or I hear people comment that they need to get a planner because they need to organize their life. They need to get their shit together. And I feel like the opposite should happen. In my instance, I went through a period of extreme stress, stay-at-home mom. My husband worked away from home, and so I was doing all the things all by myself, and so life was extremely stressful. I do not recommend going into planning during a season of life where that is the case and just life is extremely stressful. I feel like there are other methods and other techniques that you can do to help reduce your stress so that you can get to a point where then you will actually be able to use a planner. It's very possible that getting a planner when you're like already frazzled and stressed might help just a little bit, but people think it's going to like be the all solution, and when they realize that they are still feeling stressed out and they just do not understand why, they blame the planner. They go and buy a different planner, and they think if I get a different planner, maybe that planner is going to help me not feel like my life is nuts, and that is just not the case. A planner is not going to cure your chaos. Beginner planning mistake number 3, making to-do lists that are way, way, way too long. Okay, I don't know where I read this, but it is recommended that we do not put on our to-do list more than 7 items. What ends up happening if we put more than that on a daily to-do list is our brain basically can't handle it, and it is likely that you'll end up just like not doing any of the things. So I highly recommend, especially in the very beginning, keeping your to-do lists very minimum. And I realize that as a stay-at-home mom, there are a bajillion million things to do, but that's where having like a master to-do list comes in handy. So if you need to mark off a place in your planner where you just list off all the things that you want to do, like a brain dump. I do that in my planner. In the beginning of the month, there's an extra page in my planner, and I use that as like a brain dump, and I list out like all the things that I am like that are basically just needs to get done. It doesn't have a date like when they need to be done, but it's just a place to house all that information so that it's not living in my head and I don't have to constantly think about it, and I can just reference that page when I am pulling the to-dos that I'm going to be working on. And it prevents me from listing a lot of things on my daily to-do list. Beginner planning mistake number 4. Forgetting to schedule rest and self-care. Now, I don't mean self-care in the sense of painting your nails, shaving your legs, washing your hair, those sorts of like personal self-care type things. I mean the type of self-care where you are blocking off minutes of your day that you are going to dedicate to doing something that is just for you. For instance, for me, every afternoon, I try and set up a afternoon reset is what I call it. And so what it is a block of time, usually between like 5 and 30 minutes, where I do nothing. I am a highly sensitive person, and so that means as the day goes on and I consume, like from watching videos or learning, reading, as the day goes on and I am seeing all the scrolling Instagram, I'm seeing all the things, I get overstimulated quicker than someone who's not highly sensitive. So I need to have a buffer. I need to have extra breaks than someone who's not highly sensitive. And so my afternoon reset is a way for me to kind of block off a chunk of time where I can do nothing. Now, I allow myself to take a nap, to just sit quietly and just think or journal or read a novel. So it really just depends on how my day has gone so far and like how overly stimulated I am with what I do. If I've had like a poor night's sleep, then a lot of times it's just like I need a nap. I need to close my eyes for like 10 minutes and just and pro tip, I don't know who told me this either, but even if you don't actually fall asleep, closing your eyes and resting like in like a sleep position is still more beneficial than if you were to just like keep your eyes open. So try not, if you're like, oh, I'm going to dedicate myself to taking a nap, but you kind of get frustrated because you never actually fall asleep during that window of time, don't fret. As long as you were laying down, closing your eyes, it is restful in a way for your body, and that's all that matters. Beginner planning mistake number 5, starting too many new habits at once. Okay, let me explain. Our brain, I'm gonna get a little sciencey, our brain does not like change, okay? If you know anything about like fight or flight and like our stress response, anytime we experience change, like alarm bells practically go off in our brain, and our brain's trying to let us know like, what in the heck are you doing? Like, this is the path that is tried and true that you have done forever and ever, and now you're trying to throw in a new habit of waking up early? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's dangerous. We don't know what that is. Stop it. And so all these thoughts are going to come up, and it's going to try and get you not to carry through with the habit that you want to set up. So a lot of times I see people who are new to the planning community and are for the first time hearing about concepts like habit tracking, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, look, I can like set up all these new habits. And so they have a habit tracker in their planner that has space for like 5 or 6 habits, and they fill it up with a bunch of habits that are brand new to them, and then they beat themselves up at the end of the week when they see they have barely completed any of the habits, and then they kind of give up on it, and they think changing habits or habit tracking doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. When the reality is that when you set up more than one habit, you are basically setting yourself up to fail, because our brain is naturally wired to protect us, to do everything in its power to stop us from the new habit. So how do you set up a habit so that it sticks and it works? Well, James Clear says in his book, Atomic Habits, that you should do something that is called habit stacking. And so basically what that is you find a habit that you're already doing in your day to day. For example, a lot of us wake up first thing in the morning, we have a cup of coffee. So what habit that is new for you that you would like to include in your day-to-day that maybe you can pair with the time that you are spending sitting there drinking your cup of coffee? A lot of people in the planning community, they want to start a new habit of, let's say, a morning affirmation or journaling in the morning, that sort of thing. And I have had the most success in my life when I have started habits one at a time. Also, when you do that one at a time, you develop the confidence that you actually can make changes. So when you just pick one habit that you want to change, for instance, one habit that I wanted to do that I started in the very beginning of 2021 was a daily yoga practice. And I signed up for a challenge with Yoga with Adrian, and I did a 30-day challenge. And after the 30 days, I realized, wow, I did it. I sat there and I did yoga every single day for 30 days. I could probably do this all year. And so because I was only making that one change, and it wasn't really that big of a change. I already was in the habit of practicing yoga in the evening time, but I wasn't doing it every single day. I was only doing it maybe a few times a week. And so I habit stacked, essentially. I already had a set time and a place where I wanted the habit to take place, and I just did it every single day. And then once I developed that confidence, because I was successful in carrying out the whole 30 days, and I never did that before, that tells my brain, hey, like, that's cool, you did it and you didn't die. So once you've established one habit and you've got it going for a really long time, then you can think about adding a second habit. And then after that's gone for a while, then you can think about adding a third. So again, don't make the mistake of trying to set up multiple habits at once. Okay, so now that I've gone over the beginner planning mistakes, you're probably wondering what else you might need to know about planning that you do not. So if you would like to continue learning more about what planning is, go ahead and click this video, and I'll see you in that.